The great council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive wheel of metal and glass orbiting the neutral planet below. Inside, 17 different alien species sat in a wide circle, their seats raised high above the floor. At the center of the room, 3 humans stood alone under bright lights. Ambassador Tay wore the simple blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic service. On his right stood Hana, a young woman with sharp eyes who carried a data tablet. On his left was Day, an older man with gray hair who had served Earth for 30 years. All 3 stood perfectly still, their faces calm and neutral. Chancellor Rex of the Morlathian Empire rose from his seat. He was tall and covered in silver scales that caught the light. His voice boomed across the chamber as he began to read from a long document. "We gathered today to address the human problem," Rex said. "For 200 years, humanity has been part of our galactic community. In that time, they have caused nothing but disruption and chaos." Tay did not move. He simply listened. Rex continued reading the charges. Humans had spread too fast, claiming over 400 worlds in just 2 centuries. Other species had taken thousands of years to colonize half that many planets. Humans bred too quickly, their population growing at alarming rates. They refused to share their military technology with the Council. Their merchants sold goods at prices that undercut established businesses, destroying traditional trade relationships that had existed for millennia. Furthermore, Rex said, his voice growing louder, human cultural exports are contaminating our societies. Their music, their films, their books spread ideas that challenge our traditional ways. Young people of every species now question their elders, demand changes, seek new paths. This is the human infection. A representative from the insectoid Clathy species clicked its mandibles in agreement. "Humans ask too many questions," it said in its translated voice. "Why do we do this? Why not try that? Can we change this system?" It never ends. They refuse to accept that some things are done a certain way because they have always been done that way. Other council members voiced their complaints. Humans were too loud, too energetic, too curious, too innovative. They made other species uncomfortable with their constant push for progress and change. Finally, Rex called for the vote. "All in favor of expelling humanity from the Galactic Council, please signal." 14 lights appeared on the voting board. Only 3 species voted against the measure: the Kilrathi, who had received medical aid from human doctors; the Kraxans, whose desert world humans were transforming; and the small Piri collective, who had always been friendly with Earth. "The measure passes," Rex declared. "Humanity is hereby expelled from the Galactic Council. You have 1 standard year to remove all human presence from Council space. All embassies must close. All trade agreements will terminate. All military vessels must withdraw. All colonial settlements in Council territory must be abandoned. The galaxy will be better without you." The Council members expected anger. They expected Ambassador Tay to shout, to threaten, to promise revenge. Some species had prepared for the possibility that humans might even attack the station in rage. Instead, Tay simply bowed. It was a slow, deep bow that showed respect. "We understand," he said quietly. "Humanity will comply fully with the Council's decision. We will begin our withdrawal immediately. We wish you all well." Hannah and Day bowed as well. Then the 3 humans turned and walked toward the exit. Their footsteps echoed in the suddenly silent chamber dawn as the door closed behind them. Confused murmurs spread through the Council. This was not the reaction they had expected. Where was the fury? Where were the threats? Where was the human pride they had heard so much about? "They accepted it too easily," said the representative from the Ulanth Confederacy, a being made of crystalline structures that glowed with inner light. "I do not trust this. What can they do?" Rex replied with confidence. They are one species against 17, against hundreds of council worlds. They have no choice but to accept. Their calm is merely the dignity of the defeated. But some council members were not so sure. The Kelrathi ambassador, whose people had been saved from a plague by human doctors, stood up. "We may regret this decision," she said softly. "Humans have given much to this council, more than we acknowledge. They have taken more than they have given," Rex snapped. "This vote is final. The humans will leave and we will return to the proper order of things." Outside the chamber, Tay walked through the long corridors of the council station with Hannah and Day beside him. Other humans who worked at the station stopped to look at them, questions in their eyes. Tay gave them a small nod. They would receive their orders soon enough. "Should we file a formal protest?" Hannah asked quietly. "Appeal the decision?" "No," Tay said. "They've made their choice. We will respect it. They expect us to fight this," they said. "They have prepared for threats and anger. Then we will surprise them with our grace," Tay replied. "We will leave exactly as they have asked, completely, quietly, with dignity." Back on the human ship docked at the station, Tay sent an encrypted message to Earth. The message was simple. Expulsion confirmed. Begin protocol departure. Complete withdrawal from all council space within 1 year. No exceptions. No resistance. Take everything that is ours. Leave nothing behind. Within hours, every human ship in the galaxy received the same orders. From the busiest trade stations to the most remote colonies, humans began to pack their belongings and prepare to leave. What the council did not know was that humanity had planned for this possibility. For 50 years, human leaders had watched the growing resentment from other species. They had seen the jealousy, the fear, the discomfort. They had prepared for the day when the galaxy might reject them. Now that day had come, and humanity was ready. As Tay stood at the window of his ship, watching the council station grow smaller in the distance, he felt a strange sense of relief. For 200 years, humanity had tried to fit in, to be patient, to work within the council's slow and ancient systems. Now they were free of that burden. "Let them have their galaxy," Tay said softly to himself. "Let them see how well they do without us." His ship turned toward the distant blue-green dot of Earth. Behind him, the council station glittered in the starlight, its occupants already celebrating their victory over the troublesome humans. They had no idea what they had just done. They had no idea what was coming. Within months, they would begin to understand. Within a year, they would beg for humanity to return. But it would be too late. The quiet departure of humanity had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. The withdrawal began the next morning. On 300 worlds across council space, humans woke up and started packing. They did not protest. They did not complain. They simply began the process of leaving. Officer Kwan of Council Security worked at the Central Processing Station on Helios Prime, one of the largest human settlements in Council territory. She had been born here, had lived her whole life under the light of the blue sun. Now she was coordinating the evacuation of 50,000 humans from the planet. A Vrelian trade minister arrived at her office, his 6 arms waving in agitation. "You cannot simply terminate our contracts," he insisted. "We have agreements that run for 2 more years. There will be penalties, legal consequences." Kwan looked up from her computer screen. Her face showed no emotion. "The Galactic Council has ordered all humans to leave Council space. We are complying with that order. All contracts are void under emergency Council directives. But the trading season begins in 3 months, the Vrelian said. "We need your cargo ships, your logistics networks. You asked us to leave," Kwan interrupted gently. "We are leaving. I suggest you find new shipping partners." She went back to her work, Entering departure codes into the system, the Vrelian stood there for a moment, his arms falling still. Then he turned and walked away, a worried expression on his alien face. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place. Humans were polite, professional, and absolutely unmoved by any pleas to stay. On the Nexus Medical Research Station, Dr. Mira supervised the packing of 200 years of research. She was a small woman with tired eyes and brilliant mind. For 15 years, she had worked on cures for diseases that affected council species. Her team had made incredible progress. The Kalrathi health minister arrived as Myra's team loaded the last data cores into secure containers. "Please," the minister begged, "the nerve plague cure. We are so close to completion. Just leave us the research. We will credit humanity in all the papers. We will pay any price." Myra sealed the container and looked at the minister with sad eyes. "I'm sorry. This research was funded by Earth and conducted by human scientists. It is our intellectual property. It goes with us. But 30 million Kalrathi are infected," the minister said, her voice breaking. "Without this cure, they will die." "I know," Myra said quietly. "I have spent years trying to save them. But the council expelled us. They did not make exceptions for important medical work. They said all humans must leave. So we are leaving, and all work leaves with us." "This is murder," the minister whispered. Myra's expression hardened. "No, this is consequence. The council made a choice. Now they must live with it." She picked up the container and walked toward the shuttle bay, on the desert world of Craxus. Engineer Jin stood in the control room of Terraform Station 7. Through the windows, he could see the miracle his team had created. 40% of this dead world was now green and alive, with flowing water and breathable air. It had taken 30 years of work. The Craxan governor stood beside him, looking out at the transformed landscape. "You cannot leave this unfinished," he said. 20 million of my people have moved to the terraformed regions. We've built cities. We have farms. We have lives here." Jin typed commands into the station computer, backing up all the human data. The contract specified human expertise and human technology for the terraforming process. "You are ending that contract by asking us to leave council space. We did not vote for your expulsion," the governor protested. "We voted to keep you in the council." "I know," Jin said, "and I am grateful for that. But the council's decision applies to all council space. We must leave Craxus too." He paused, looking at the readouts on his screen. "I should tell you that the atmospheric processors will begin failing within 6 months. They require maintenance that only my team knows how to perform. You should begin evacuation procedures for the terraformed zones." The governor's skin turned pale blue with shock. "You are leaving us with machines we cannot fix? That will break down and destroy everything you built? We are leaving you with exactly what you were willing to accept when the council voted," Jin said calmly. "You voted to keep us, yes. But you accepted the majority decision. You stayed silent. Now you have machines without the people who can maintain them." He downloaded the last file and shut down his terminal. "I am sorry, but we are out of time. Humanity is leaving." The pattern repeated on world after world. Humans did not sabotage anything. They did not destroy equipment or delete files out of spite. They simply took everything that was theirs, their skills, their technology, and left. They removed themselves so completely that it was as if they had never been there. Admiral Soong commanded the human defense fleet that had protected the Council's eastern border for 50 years. His ships had fought off pirates and raiders countless times, keeping the trade routes safe. Now he was leading them out of Council space as his flagship crossed the border into independent territory. He received a message from Council Fleet Command. "Admiral, We request you maintain your position for 3 more months while we reorganize our defensive positions. Soong sent back a brief reply. Negative. The Council expelled humanity from Council space. My ships are leaving as ordered. Good luck with your defenses. You are abandoning your posts, the Council commander accused. We are complying with the Council's direct order to remove all human presence from their territory. Soong replied, including military presence. If you wanted us to stay, you should not have expelled us. He closed the communication channel. His second officer, a young man named Taiyang, looked worried. Sir, the Zogsketh have been testing the borders for months. Without our fleet here, the Council's defenses will have gaps. That is no longer our problem, Soong said firmly. We offered our protection. They rejected us. Now they will learn to protect themselves. He looked out at the stars ahead. Set course for Earth. It is time to go home. Behind them, the Council space they had protected for half a century grew dark and empty. The massive defense network that coordinated fleets from 12 different species began showing errors. It had been designed by human strategists. Without them, it started to fail. By the end of the 3rd month, every human embassy was empty. Every human trading post was closed. Every human colony in Council space was abandoned. The humans left behind empty buildings with locked doors. On Earth, the returning humans were welcomed home as heroes. They had served the galaxy with honor, and they had left with dignity when asked. Now humanity would focus on itself, on its own worlds, on its own future. Ambassador Tay stood in the office of Earth's president, looking out at the blue oceans below. They think we will come crawling back, he said. They think we need them. The president smiled. Let them think that. They will learn the truth soon enough. Should we warn them? Tay asked. Tell them what is coming? They had 200 years to see what we brought to the galaxy, the president replied. They chose to be blind. Now they will see clearly. Sometimes the best teacher is experience. Across the galaxy, the humans were gone. The great exodus was complete. And in the sudden silence they left behind, the Council was about to learn a very expensive lesson. 6 months after the last human ship departed Council space, the first problems appeared. They started small, easy to dismiss as minor inconveniences. But they grew. The Vrelian Consortium noticed it first. Their shipping reports showed a 15% drop in delivery efficiency. Cargo that used to arrive on schedule was now late. Routes that once ran smoothly were now congested. The Vrelian transport minister called an emergency meeting with his logistics team. What is causing these delays? He demanded, his 6 arms crossed in frustration. The head of logistics, a nervous Vrelian named Paul, brought up charts on the wall screen. Minister, we have discovered that our entire route optimization system was designed by human programmers. The algorithms they created manage 70% of all galactic shipping routes. So replace the algorithms, the minister said. We cannot, sir. The code is proprietary. The humans took it with them. Our programmers have been trying to recreate it, but Paul hesitated. The human system was incredibly complex. It calculated millions of variables in real time. Our best estimate is that it will take 5 years to build a replacement. In the meantime, shipping efficiency will continue to drop. The minister's skin turned dark with anger, but there was nothing he could do. The humans were gone, and their brilliant logistics system had gone with them. At the Nexus medical station, the remaining researchers faced a worse problem. They had been trying for months to complete Dr. Myra's work on the Kalrathi nerve plague cure. The disease was spreading, and 30 million Kalrathi were now showing symptoms. Dr. Veloth, a Kalrathi scientist, stared at Myra's notes for the 100th time. I do not understand this section, he said to his team. She mentions quantum protein mapping, but the technique she describes does not match any known medical procedure. His assistant, a young researcher named Kira, looked up from her microscope. "Doctor, I think she invented a new technique. Something only she and her team understood. But she must have published papers about it," Veloth said desperately. "Research is shared. That is how science works." She submitted 3 papers to the Council Medical Journal, Kira said quietly. All 3 were rejected. The review board said her methods were too radical, too unproven. They told her to use traditional approaches instead. Veloth felt his hope drain away. Dr. Myra had created something revolutionary, something that could save millions of his people. But because the council had rejected her work, she had never fully explained it. Now she was gone, and the knowledge had gone with her. "How long do the infected have?" he asked. "Without treatment, 18 months, Kira said. "Maybe less." On the desert world of Craxus, Engineer Jin's prediction came true. The atmospheric processors began failing. The Craxan engineers tried everything they could think of, but the technology was far beyond their understanding. Chief Engineer Sue stood in the control room, watching the pressure readings drop. "We need to evacuate the western settlements," he told the governor. "The atmosphere in that region will become unbreathable within 3 weeks. 20 million people," the governor said, his voice hollow. "Where will they go?" "The eastern regions are still stable," Sue said, "but I cannot promise for how long. These machines are connected. If one section fails, it puts stress on the others. Eventually, the entire system could collapse. Contact Earth," the governor ordered. "Offer them anything. Money, resources, territory. Just get Engineer Jin back here." Sue shook his head sadly. "I already tried, Governor." Earth's response was polite but clear. They said Engineer Jin has moved on to other projects. They wish us well. The evacuation began the next day. 20 million Craxans left their homes and farms, abandoning the green paradise that humans had built for them. Many of them wept as they looked back at the land that was already beginning to die. But these problems, as serious as they were nothing compared to what happened next. The Zoxkith attacked. The Zoxkith were a hostile species from beyond the council borders. For 100 years, they had tested the council's defenses, looking for weaknesses. The human fleet had always stopped them, turning them back before they could gain a foothold. Now, the human fleet was gone. The Zoxkith sensors detected the gap in the defenses. Their war council decided to strike. 50,000 ships poured across the border into Morlathian territory. Chancellor Vrex activated the council's integrated defense network, calling for help from all member species. Ships from 12 different species began to mobilize, moving toward the invasion point. But the coordination system failed. The defense network had been designed by Commander Nari, a human military strategist. She had spent 20 years building a system that could blend the different fighting styles and technologies of a dozen species into one effective force. The system was a masterpiece of military programming. Without her, it was a disaster. Morlathian ships arrived at Rally Point 7, but the Clathi fleet went to Rally Point 9. The communication protocols failed, leaving commanders screaming into static. The Ulanth ships used weapons that interfered with Relian shields, causing friendly fire incidents. Half the fleet could not even understand the tactical updates because the translation subroutines were corrupted. What should have been a coordinated defense became chaos. Individual species fought bravely, but without coordination, they fought alone. The Zoxkith pushed forward. In 2 weeks, they conquered 3 entire star systems. Billions of Morlathians fled their homes as enemy ships filled their skies. Chancellor Vrex, his empire burning, made a decision he had hoped to avoid. He sent a priority message directly to Earth. We request immediate human military assistance against the Zoxkith invasion, the message read. We will pay standard mercenary rates, triple rates, whatever you require. Please respond urgently. The response came from Director Era of Earth's External Affairs Bureau. She was a middle-aged woman with gray in her hair and steel in her voice. Her message was brief. The Galactic Council expelled humanity from Council space 6 months ago. We are no longer part of Council affairs or Council problems. We wish you success in your defensive efforts. Earth out. Vrex stared at the message in disbelief. They are refusing? We are offering to pay them. His military advisor, General Thane, spoke carefully. Chancellor, they are not refusing because of money. They are refusing because we told them to leave. We said we were better off without them. That was politics, Vrex said desperately. This is war. Billions of lives are at stake. And they are saying that those are Council lives, not human lives, Thane replied. We made ourselves not their problem anymore. The Zoxketh advanced another 2 sectors. On Earth, in the office of the Terran Defense Council, Admiral Soom watched the reports from the Morlathian front. His officers stood around the table, looking at the tactical displays. Sir, we could stop this invasion in 3 weeks, Taiyang said. Our fleet knows how to fight the Zoxkith. We have the strategies, the weapons, the experience. Yes, Soom agreed. We could stop it easily. Then why don't we? Taiyang asked, frustrated. Because the Council needs to learn, Soom said quietly. For 200 years, we protected them. We solved their problems. We fixed their mistakes. They began to think of us as servants, not partners. They took us for granted. He looked at his young officer. Now they are learning what the galaxy is like without us. It is a hard lesson, but a necessary one. People are dying, Taiyang said. Yes, Soom said, and his face was sad. And I do not enjoy that. But if we run to save them now, they will learn nothing. In 5 years or 10 years, they will expel us again. They will say we are too aggressive, too dangerous, to whatever excuse they invent. And the cycle will repeat. He turned off the tactical display. The Council made their choice. Now they pay the price. Back in Council space, the cracks were becoming canyons. And the Council was beginning to realize just how badly they had miscalculated. The Zoxkith invasion was only the beginning. Like a dam breaking, one disaster led to another. And soon the entire Council structure began to collapse. The Morlathian Empire, desperate to stop the Zoxkith advance, pulled ships from their border with the Vrelian Consortium. They had no choice. The Zoxkith were conquering entire planets, and every ship was needed for defense. The Vrelian Consortium noticed the reduced military presence immediately. For 300 years, the Vrelians and Morlathians had argued over mining rights in the outer tangent systems. Both sides claimed the resource-rich asteroid fields. The dispute had never been resolved, held in check only by mutual military strength and Council mediation. The Council mediation had always been handled by human diplomats, without humans to moderate. And with Morlathian ships pulled away to fight the Zoxkith, the Vrelian leadership saw an opportunity. They sent their fleet to occupy the disputed systems. The Morlathians detected the Vrelian ships and responded with fury. Even while fighting the Zoxkith on one front, they diverted forces to confront the Vrelians on another dot within a week. The 2 largest powers in the Council were at war with each other. Other species took sides. The Clathi, who had trade agreements with the Vrelians, sent support ships. The Ulanth Confederacy, old enemies of the Clathi, supported the Morlathians. Ancient grudges and old disputes, held in check for centuries by careful diplomacy, exploded into open conflict. The Council tried to call an emergency session to mediate the crisis. But the Council's most skilled mediator had been Ambassador Tay. The remaining council diplomats argued and shouted, but they could not find common ground. Every attempt at negotiation fell apart within hours. 6 species were at war within a month. And the fighting spread. The galactic economy, already strained by the Zoxketh invasion, began to collapse entirely. Merchant ships found their routes blocked by military patrols. Trade stations became targets in the spreading conflicts. Insurance companies refused to cover cargo shipments through council space. The Piri Collective, a small species that depended on imports for 70% of their food, faced starvation. Their representatives sent desperate messages to their trading partners, but the ships they needed were either destroyed in the fighting or too afraid to travel. High Councilor Pax of the Piri stood before what remained of the council assembly. "My people are dying," she said, her small voice filled with desperation. "We need food shipments. Please, someone help us." The other council members looked away. They had their own problems. The Morlathians were fighting a two-front war. The Vrelians were bleeding resources to maintain their occupation. The Clathi economy was in free fall. No one had resources to spare for the Piri. What about the human merchant fleets? Someone suggested. They used to handle most of the Piri food imports. The humans are gone, Chancellor Vrex said bitterly. Or have you forgotten? We expelled them. Can we hire them? Pox asked desperately. Surely they would not let my people starve. Vrex sent a message to Earth, requesting emergency food shipments for the Piri. The response came from Earth's Commerce Ministry. They would be happy to sell food to the Piri at standard commercial rates. Payment in advance. Delivery in 4 months. 4 months? Pox cried when she heard. My people will be dead in 4 months. And we cannot pay in advance. Our economy has collapsed. The Commerce Ministry's second message was equally cold. Earth cannot provide charity to the entire galaxy. If the Piri cannot pay, we suggest they contact their council partners for assistance. But the council partners had nothing to give. On the council station itself, disaster struck in a different form. The climate control systems failed. For 3 days, engineers from every species worked frantically to find the problem. They traced the error to a critical design flaw in the original Caltherian construction. The flaw had been documented in the station's files. But the solution was not. A junior technician named Byung, who had worked as an assistant to the station's former chief engineer, discovered the truth buried in old maintenance logs. Human engineer Wu had been quietly fixing the flaw for 15 years. Every month, he had performed a specific maintenance routine that prevented the flaw from causing system failures. He had submitted reports recommending a permanent fix, but the council had always postponed the expensive repairs. Why fix what was not broken? Now Wu was gone. The maintenance routine had stopped, and the flaw had finally caused a catastrophic failure. We need to evacuate, Byung told the council emergency committee. Without engineer Wu's maintenance procedure, we cannot keep the life support stable. The station is becoming uninhabitable. Contact Wu, someone demanded. Offer him whatever he wants to come back. They sent messages to Earth, trying to reach Wu. Earth's response informed them that engineer Wu had retired and was not available for contract work. They wished the council well in solving their technical difficulties. The council station, the very symbol of galactic unity, was evacuated within a week. The council relocated to a backup facility on Carthax Prime, a cramped building designed for emergency use, not permanent occupation. The mighty council now operated from offices that felt more like closets. A human analyst named Sora, who had worked at the Earth Embassy before the expulsion, was hired as a private consultant by several desperate council members. They wanted to understand what had gone wrong. Why was everything falling apart so quickly? Sora spent 3 weeks reviewing trade data, infrastructure reports, and diplomatic records. Her findings horrified her. She presented her report to a small gathering of council leaders in a secure room. In the 200 years since humanity joined the galaxy, we became integrated into every aspect of galactic civilization, she explained, showing data on wall screens. But we did not do this through conquest or control. We did it by solving problems. She brought up a chart showing human involvement in galactic infrastructure. Humans designed the logistic systems because the old systems were inefficient. We created the defense network because coordinating 12 different species required new approaches. We mediated disputes because we had no old grudges clouding our judgment. We maintained systems because we noticed problems others overlooked. You are saying we depended on you, Rex said, his voice heavy with the weight of understanding. No, Sora corrected gently. I am saying that humanity became the connective tissue that held galactic civilization together. Not because we planned it that way, but because we filled needs that existed. We were good at solving problems, so everyone asked us to solve their problems. Over 2 centuries, we became essential. She brought up another chart, this one showing the cascading failures since the human departure. Every system we touched is now failing. Not because we sabotaged anything, but because no one else knows how to maintain what we built. The galaxy became dependent on human innovation, human expertise, human mediation. And then you expelled us. The room fell silent. Can we fix this? Asked the Galrathi representative, her voice small. Eventually, Sora said. But it will take decades. Maybe centuries. You will need to rebuild everything from the beginning. Redesign the logistics networks. Create new defense coordination systems. Train new diplomats. Develop new medical techniques. And you will need to do all of this while fighting wars, managing famines, and dealing with collapsing infrastructure. Unless the humans return, Rex said quietly. Yes, Sora agreed. Unless the humans return. We have the knowledge, the systems, the expertise. We could stop the Zoxgeth in weeks. End the Vrelian-Morlathian War in days. Restore trade routes in months. But we expelled you, Rex finished. We told you to leave. Sora nodded. And we did, completely, as requested. The council leaders sat in stunned silence, finally understanding the magnitude of their mistake. They had not just expelled a troublesome species. They had torn out the very foundation that held their civilization together, and now everything was falling apart. 1 year after the expulsion, the Galactic Council stood on the edge of complete collapse. The Zoxgeth had conquered 12 star systems. The war between the Morlathians and Vrelians had pulled in 8 other species. Trade was at 30% of what it had been before the humans left. Medical crises spread unchecked across 100 worlds. Technology failed without the humans who knew how to maintain it. Chancellor Vrex stood in the cramped council chamber on Carthax Prime, looking at the 9 remaining representatives. 8 species had stopped attending council sessions entirely. They were too busy with their own disasters or had been conquered by the Zoxgeth. We must face the truth, Rex said, his voice tired and defeated. We cannot survive without the humans. No one argued with him. They had all seen the reports. They all knew how bad things had become. I was so proud, Rex continued, and for the first time, his voice broke with emotion. My species had ruled a mighty empire for 10,000 years. We saw the humans with their 200 years of space travel, and we thought them children. Dangerous, unpredictable children who needed to be controlled or removed. He looked at the faces around the room. We were fools. We saw their rapid expansion and thought it was aggression. We saw their innovation and thought it was disruption. We saw their questioning and thought it was disrespect. We never recognized it for what it truly was, the gift of a species that genuinely wanted to help. The Galrathi representative, her people dying by the thousands each day from the nerve plague, spoke next. They did not conquer us. They helped us. Human doctors saved billions of Karathi from the red fever 15 years ago. They asked for nothing in return. I voted against the expulsion, but I did not fight hard enough to stop it. I thought the majority would see reason. I was wrong, and now my people pay the price. One by one, the representatives spoke. They admitted their mistakes. They acknowledged their pride and fear and jealousy. They confessed that they had taken humanity's contributions for granted, had seen humans as servants rather than partners, had convinced themselves that the galaxy would be better off without the troublesome species that kept challenging the old ways. We must ask them to return, Rex said finally. Not as mercenaries, not as hired help, but as equals, as partners. We must apologize for our treatment of them and beg them to rejoin the council. The vote was unanimous. The council spent a week composing the message. They knew they had one chance to get this right. The message acknowledged every mistake, expressed genuine remorse, and offered humanity everything they could think of: full council membership, seats on all major committees, exclusive trade concessions, complete access to council technology and resources. The message ended with a simple plea: please come back. We need you. The galaxy needs you. Chancellor Rex personally sent the message to Earth, marking it with the highest priority codes. Then he waited. The response arrived 3 days later. It came not from Earth's government, but from a single individual ambassador, Tay, the same man who had stood silently in the council chamber 1 year ago and accepted humanity's expulsion with dignity. Rex read the message aloud to the assembled council representatives. His hand shook as he held the data tablet. Humanity appreciates the council's reconsideration of their previous decision, Tay's message began. We acknowledge your apology and understand the difficult circumstances you currently face. However, in the year since our departure, humanity has refocused our efforts on internal development and on building relationships with the 73 independent species who exist outside council space. Many of these species were deemed too primitive or too troublesome to join the council. We have found them to be innovative, eager partners. Together, we have created new alliances, new trade networks, and new collaborative projects that benefit all participants equally. We have found this arrangement to be far more beneficial to human interests than our 200 years of council membership. We no longer need to compromise our values to satisfy species who see us as a threat. We no longer need to seek approval from those who fear change. We are free to innovate, explore, and grow without constraint. We hold no ill will toward the council species. Our borders remain open to trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange with any species that wishes to engage with us as equals and partners. Several council species have already established bilateral relationships with Earth, and we welcome others to do the same. But humanity will not rejoin the Galactic Council. Not now, and not in the foreseeable future. The Council made their decision 1 year ago. You determined that the galaxy would be better off without us. Now you must live with the consequences of that decision. We wish you well in rebuilding what was lost. Perhaps in time, when the Council has learned to truly value partnership over hierarchy, when you have rebuilt your civilization on principles of mutual respect rather than rigid tradition, we can establish new relationships. But that will be a matter for future generations to decide, not ours. Humanity departs this matter as we departed council space 1 year ago, with dignity, without anger, and in peace. We will not be returning. Please do not contact us again regarding council membership. The message was signed simply, Ambassador Tay, speaking for humanity. Rex's hands dropped to his sides. The data tablet fell to the floor with a clatter that echoed in the silent chamber. They are not coming back, someone whispered. They don't need us anymore, another voice said. Full of shock, the Kalrathi representative began to weep. 30 million of my people will die, and the humans who could save them are refusing because we asked them to leave. No, Rex said quietly. They are refusing because we treated them as problems to be managed instead of partners to be valued. They are refusing because returning now would teach us nothing. We would simply expel them again in 10 years or 50 years, as soon as we forgot how much we needed them. He looked around at the devastated faces of his fellow council members. We expected humanity to fight when we expelled them. We prepared for threats, for military responses, for angry protests. We never imagined that they would simply leave, that they would walk away from 2 centuries of investment and integration without a backward glance. What do we do now? The Ulanth representative asked. We survive, Rex said. We rebuild. We learn. It will take decades, perhaps centuries. Many will suffer. Many will die. The Zoxkith will take more territory before we can stop them. The wars will continue until we relearn how to mediate our own disputes. The famines will spread until we reconstruct our trade networks. And every day, we will remember that this suffering is the price of our pride. He stood up, his scaled body bent with the weight of failure. The age of the Galactic Council as we knew it has ended. Not with a bang, but with the quiet closing of a door and the soft sound of human footsteps walking away. On Earth, Ambassador Tay stood in his small apartment, looking out at the lights of Sol below. His personal datapad showed dozens of messages from Council species' personal pleas, offers of money, desperate requests for help. He did not answer any of them. Director Era appeared on his communication screen. The Council is calling you heartless, she said. Cruel for refusing to help when billions are dying. I know, Tay said quietly. Does it bother you? Yes, Tay admitted. Every day. I think about Dr. Myra's research that could save the Kalrathi. About Engineer Jin's terraforming that could feed millions. About Admiral Sung's fleet that could stop the Zoxkith in weeks. We could help them. We could save them. Then why don't we? Era asked, though she knew the answer. Because saving them now would doom them later, Tay said. The Council learned to depend on us because we always solved their problems. They took us for granted because we always came when called. They expelled us because they believed they could manage without us, that we were more trouble than we were worth. He turned to face the screen. If we return now, we teach them that expelling us has no real consequences, that they can use us and discard us whenever it is politically convenient, that we will always come running back, so we let them suffer. We let them learn, Tay corrected. We let them understand the true value of what they lost. And maybe, in 100 years or 200 years, when new leaders sit on the Council and the old pride has been replaced with wisdom, maybe then we can build something better. Something based on mutual respect instead of reluctant tolerance. They looked back out at the city lights. But not now. Now they must face the consequences of their choices. Just as we all must. In the darkness of space, the Council station sat abandoned, a monument to fallen pride. Across the galaxy, species that had once scorned humanity now struggled to survive without them. The lesson was brutal, expensive, and thorough. Humanity had never needed the Council nearly as much as the Council had needed humanity. By the time the Council learned this truth, it was far too late. The humans were gone, and they were not coming back. The galaxy would never be the same again.